Hello, everyone. Sorry, this one is going to be in English, so apologies for this. I'm Rudy Malka. I'm the Cloud Sales Specialist for SentinelOne. I'm covering all of Europe, so I'm very used not to speak the local languages, but I'm going to try to let you know as much as I can about our cloud security offering. For those who do not know us, we started back in 2013 and we went IPO in 2021. It was the biggest IPO in the cybersecurity industry, and we are expanding every day. Today we have more than 12,000 customers and approximately 2,500 employees in the company. When it comes to cloud that we're going to talk about, we're recognized by the industry and by the G2 grid as a leader when it comes to CNAPP, Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. This is something that is public. It's not from us. So this is the market recognizing SentinelOne as a leader in the cloud space. When it comes to our technology, there's a lot of things that we're doing. What's interesting with us is that since day one, when we started with endpoint security, we leverage a data lake as the foundation of our platform. So anything that you do at SentinelOne, whether it's endpoint, identity, cloud security that we're going to talk about today, vulnerability management, everything comes as a single pane of glass, leveraging a single data lake since day one. So unlike some of our competitors, we did not build this technology on top of each other's, but we have a very strong foundation, which is the Singularity data lake. What's interesting is that we know that we're not going to be the only vendor in the IT security stack. And eventually, this data lake is open not only to our technologies, but also to third-party integration. And there is a lot that we can explore together, especially for cloud. It can be audit logs in the cloud. It can be anything specific or any third-party solution. Even some of the other vendors that we're speaking today can be integrated in this data lake for context and correlation. The reason why we talk about cloud today is first because a lot of companies are adopting the cloud. And especially in Europe, it's accelerating in the recent years. And we see a lot of attacks targeting cloud environment and more specifically containers. There is SentinelOne Labs, for those who do not know. It's a blog where we post every day or almost every day analysis on threats that we saw in the cloud environments. And eventually you can deep dive into what happened, how it happened, and understand how to, let's say, detect, protect, and remediate such threats. What's interesting to notice is that these threats are not targeting one of the attack surfaces anymore, and you can't just secure your runtime or your code or your infrastructure. You have to be, let's say, across all of the attack surfaces, and that's what's offered by the Singularity platform. So Singularity Cloud Security, as part of the platform, we have a set of products that help you protect your cloud environments, and I'm going to try to let you know about it a little bit. But just before we do so, I would like to go with the definition of what is CNAPP. CNAPP is a term that has been coined by Gartner analysts, and they stated that Cloud Native Application Protection Platform should cover a lot of topics. Obviously, I'm not going to cover everything that Gartner is talking about because there is a lot, but we took the most important pillars in order for you to, let's say, read in between the lines in what Gartner is recommending to customers. The first element is cloud workload or runtime security. We know that the first thing that customers are adopting in the cloud is actually compute. They go to the cloud because compute is cheaper, it's agile, they can have it on demand, and therefore, it comes with a risk. Gartner is stating that these workloads, whether it's virtual machine, containerized environment, or even Kubernetes-based environment, they should be secured using agent-based technology. On top of this, they mentioned that the agents should rely on eBPF. For those who do not know, eBPF is a framework that comes from the open source community that helps to run things in the user space and leverage eBPF to query lower layer information. So let's say you want information from the kernel, you can do this leveraging the eBPF framework. And it became a standard in the cloud. And Gartner is mentioning that it's very important for a customer to choose a CNAPP solution that eventually cover cloud workload security with agents and leverages eBPF in order to do so. We saw recent events of agent-based technologies, I'm not going to mention the vendors, that broke information systems because they stick to the lower layer, the kernel, of those workloads. Not sticking to the kernel is not only reducing the risks when it comes to breaking the production, but it also keeps the agility of the cloud, because the people that are managing this environment, they can continue to upgrade, to work in an agile manner, because they don't have an agent and a version that sticks to it. So that's the first part of what Gartner consider as mandatory in a CNAPP platform, having agents that rely on eBPF. Another one, when customers are adopting the compute, eventually they start to use other services, whether it's storage, load balancers, networks. There is a lot of services that you can use in the cloud. Every single cloud service provider, whether it's Azure, AWS, or GCP, they have 100+ of services that customers can leverage in order to build their infrastructures. These services, they should be secure too, according to Gartner, whether it's from the misconfiguration standpoint, whether it's from the compliance standpoint. If I can give you the most simple example, GDPR, the compliance framework, is stating that if you store data at rest in the cloud, for example, you need to make sure that the data is encrypted. When you use a service like S3 buckets on AWS, eventually by default it's not encrypted, and you want to get to know which data is encrypted and which data is not if you want to make sure that you comply with GDPR. So eventually you secure the workloads, and then you secure the services. And that's the runtime, that's the production environment. So your application, they run here. But eventually, the people that are building this application, developers, now they have the full power. They can deploy the infrastructure, there is a build stage where we can implement a lot of controls. And Gartner is saying that all of these controls that we do in production, we also need to shift them inside of the development environments. Meaning, when the developer is writing infrastructure as code, for example, we need to make sure that when it goes into production, there's not going to be any problem. And the earlier we detect them, the better it is, because we can make sure that we only go in production with something that is secure or with something that is compliant. So now SentinelOne, how do we map all of these needs coming from Gartner's with our technology? The first thing that we do is what made us famous, agent-based, eBPF agent running in your cloud workloads, whether it's servers, virtual machines, containers, container as a service, AKS, EKS, whatever workload that you can run in the cloud, we can deploy a lightweight agent that runs in the user space, leveraging eBPF, in order for you not only to detect and protect from threats, but also to give you telemetry information in order for you to investigate, do threat hunting, do incident response. Eventually, when something happens, if it happens and you didn't protect it, then you're left with nothing. But with the agents and with the data lake, we collect and correlate information for you to be able to do post-mortem and understand what happened afterwards. So that's the first building block of our CNAPP offering. The second one is very specific to SentinelOne, and there is almost no vendor offering such a technology. What we do is that we provide agent-based technology to scan your data. Not to scan your configurations, but to scan inside of the storage buckets that you may have in the cloud and look for known and unknown malwares, leveraging behavioral engine that comes from the runtime security that we've been doing for 10 years. And last but not least, we have this product, this building block, which is cloud native security. This is the most recent in the tree technology, and it's agentless. What's unique about the agentless technology of SentinelOne is that it comes with an offensive engine. For the little story, this product is coming from an acquisition that we did last year of a company that was called PingSafe. And this company was founded by a person, his name is Anand Prakash. You can Google him and look him up. And he was famous before building this company for bug bounty hunting. So he documented a few security breaches for Uber, Facebook, LinkedIn, and other big companies, even Tinder, if I'm not mistaken. Don't ask me why. But eventually, when he decided to build this agentless technology, he implemented all of the techniques and tactics that he was using when he was doing recognition for those companies as a bug bounty hunter. And eventually, inside of the solution, there is an offensive engine, and I'm going to let you know a little bit of what it does. So these are the three building blocks. What's very interesting is to consider it that way. Agentless technology, at this stage, nothing happened. We just read your configuration, and we let you know you should fix this or you should fix that to mitigate the risk. But eventually, workload security, runtime security, is the last line of defense. When something happens, either we detect it, we protect it, or eventually when it's a 0-day that no one knows about, we have behavioral capabilities here to understand that something suspicious or malicious is happening. And even if we fail to detect this, then we have the telemetry for you to be able to understand what happened, what's the impact, and to eventually remediate it. So cloud native security, the attacker mindset, I told you a little bit about it. What's magic about it is that when it comes to cloud security, and you just had a presentation before about CNAPP, I believe. Any CNAPP on the market, when you're going to connect it to your environment, it's going to be Christmas before Christmas. You're going to have a lot of alerts, red, yellow, green, and you don't know where to start, where it ends. The truth is that no customer on this planet has enough time or resources to fix all of the misconfiguration, all of the vulnerabilities, all of the issues that this type of solution is going to report to you. So it's very important for you to be able to prioritize what you want to fix and how you want to fix it. The verified exploit path does the following. When we find something that is publicly exposed to the public internet and that is vulnerable to a known vulnerability, we report it to you first, and we try to exploit it from the outside. It means we send non-malicious payloads to make sure that not only it's vulnerable, but also that it's actually exploitable. And with this engine, there is no false positive, because if I report something there, it means I could attack you from the outside. And that helps a lot of customers when it comes to priority, because these type of things you want to fix in the first place if you don't want to be in the news the week after, because someone from the outside could actually attack you. Obviously, instant visibility and coverage. This is an agentless technology, so you just onboard your cloud accounts, and after a few minutes, you start to collect findings and eventually get visibility on cloud environments that are very often a blind spot for security companies. Another aspect that is very important is secret leakage. We know that developers are using infrastructure as code massively, and that eventually they use secret, AWS keys, Azure credentials, and this is a huge target for attackers. They are targeting, we see a lot of campaigns targeting developers, targeting admin users, because they know that their credential can give a lot of permissions inside of the information system. The reason why we bought this company and made it part of the platform is because we were using two other vendors to protect our infrastructure. And when we did the due diligence, Cloud native security discovered a lot of secrets that were leaked by our developers because of the type of secrets that we actually detect. We don't stick to just the cloud native secrets, but we have a list of more than 750 type of secrets that we can cover. Eventually, there is a lot that we could talk about inside of this product, and I'm going to go through it quickly because this is something that has already been told to you earlier today. Multi-cloud support, CSPM, asset inventory, the ability to represent attack paths inside of a Graph Explorer. This is becoming the normal when it comes to CNAPP, so nothing special about it. Infrastructure as code scanning, very important. The infrastructure are not deployed by humans. The era where you go to the data center to rack a server and plug it to the network is over. Now it's a developer using code in order to deploy everything and anything, so very important to scan this. Vulnerability scanning in the cloud, and it comes in pair with the offensive engine that I was telling you about. Container and Kubernetes security, this is key. And the double approach of having agent-based security and agentless security is mandatory when it comes to Kubernetes. And this is what we see with the SentinelOne analysis. And eventually, for the most mature customer in the cloud space, detection and response. When we detect something, we can give you the ability to automate the response and automate the remediation, whether it's vulnerability or misconfiguration. And last but not least, the Singularity Data Lake, the basis, the foundation of the platform, is also able to collect all of this information and share them with SOC analysts for further correlation, with third-party systems, with endpoint technologies, with firewalls, with load balancers. It's very important to have more context and not just focus on the cloud space. We see a lot of attacks today that leverage cloud to get to the on-prem environment and goes back and forth. So complete visibility is very important. Once we say this, then we get into the cloud workload security part of the story. You want to secure your runtime. How do we do so? You can see here the equivalent of the attack path that we were showing with the agentless technology, but this time, this is runtime activities. So we know exactly what's happening inside of the runtime. Every process, every file hash, every network interaction is stored in the data lake and represented in a graphical manner. Let me give you a very simple example. A lot of customers, they're using containers, and the containers, they're running, let's say, for an hour or for 2 hours, because this is the nature of containers. Now, if a container is establishing a communication with a command and control server, and that no one knows about this command and control server, then eventually the communication is going to go through. 1 month later, everybody knows, or it becomes public, that these command and control servers are becoming public. We know they're malicious. Eventually, leveraging the data lake, you can get the information of which container that is not running anymore, that is not in production anymore because it's been killed by the Kubernetes stack, has established a communication with a command and control server. And we provide up to 3 years of retention for this data. Very important when it comes to the cloud. A lot of solutions are going to tell you, we detect, we protect, but what if the information comes long after the end of the life cycle of a container? So mandatory to cover your runtime, leveraging a tool that can enable you not only to detect and respond, but also to do hunting and forensics. Stability and performance, I talked about it a little bit. eBPF, no kernel dependency. Cloud people continue to operate the way they operate, and security people get visibility and get adoption by cloud people because it's lightweight and it's not going to impact any of the production. You can see a little bit of the context that we bring to the table, and there is a lot more to say about it. I'm not going to dig deeper in that part, but this is the best product I've seen on the market when it comes to runtime. Last but not least, and I believe no other CNAPP vendors is doing this. A lot are doing data security posture management. So they tell you that there is some data that contains credit card information or P2I or health information, but no one is actively looking for malwares inside of the data in the cloud. That's what we do here with an extension of what we've been doing with the agent-based technology. What's interesting here is that everything that we do it inside of the cloud tenant of the customer. So the data is not coming out. We don't upload the data to our data center. Everything is happening within the customer premise, inside of the cloud environment. And we don't even move the data from a region to another for obvious privacy and compliance reasons. Eventually, we can automate the response. So classic traditional detection that sends an alert to the SOC or to an analyst that is going to quarantine or delete the file. But we can also leverage tags or labels in the cloud environment for DevOps people to, let's say, build application flow and make sure that they only access data that has been scanned and has been confirmed not to be malicious or suspicious. So this is cloud data security. Today we support S3 buckets. We support Amazon FSx for NetApp. And we also support NetApp on-premise. So depending on the region, there is more or less NetApp environment. I'm not sure about Hungary, but if you go to government or if you go to, let's say, public institution, very often they have this file storage technologies such as NetApp, and this is something that we can also cover. That is a little bit outside of the cloud space, but still important to cover. And that's it for me. Thank you very much, guys.